Hello, I'm your host, Paul Young, and with me today is parent education expert Stephanie Risley. Welcome to another episode of Surviving the Teen Years.
Thanks, Paul. The early teenage years are often stressful for both adolescents and their parents. Teens may be confused about the physical and emotional changes they experience, while at the same time, parents might be facing their own midlife crisis. Or sometimes parents are simply worried about getting older when they compare their energy or lack of it to their child's youth and vitality.
And parents often worry that their kids will experience violence, negative peer pressure, become addicted to drugs, drop out of school, develop eating disorders, or even become suicidal in response to the many pressures and stresses they may face.
You're right, parents do worry. But most young people function well through their teenage years and go on to become contributing members of society. In this series of 10 videos, we will examine teenage behavior and help parents identify the issues that require serious intervention. We will look at ways that parents can help their children grow into healthy adults.
Thank you, Stephanie. The topic of today's program is self-esteem. Let's watch a scene involving a teenager and her family. Think about what you would do if you were in a similar situation.
Good afternoon, Lynn. How was your day?
Leave me alone.
Honey, are you all right?
No.
Honey, what's the matter?
Nothing.
Well, if nothing's the matter, maybe you can help me with dinner. Lynn?
You want to know what's wrong?
Yes, I'd like to know why you've been so moody lately.
My breasts are too big, okay? Everyone makes fun of me, and I'm miserable, okay? Can you help me with that? I didn't think so.
Come on, Lynn. It can't be that serious. They're just teasing.
As you just saw, Lynn had a problem at school, and George felt unable to help her. They've agreed to join us today to discuss what happened and to work with our expert to find solutions to the problem. Please welcome this family to our program. Welcome to the show. Lynn, could you tell us in your own words how you felt about what happened?
Well, I was humiliated. I mean, first I have to deal with the kids at school every day, and then when I get home, my father wants me to tell him what's wrong. It's a very uncomfortable subject for me.
George, how did you feel?
Well, I felt pretty bad. There isn't a woman in the house for Lynn to talk to, and I honestly don't know what to say to her. She's going through problems that I've never had to deal with.
Okay, let's see if we have any initial reactions from our audience.
George didn't take Lynn's feelings very seriously. He just kind of brushed her off.
What do you think?
I don't think that's true. George was put in a very difficult situation. What was he supposed to say?
He could have offered her some type of understanding instead of just saying it's a little teasing. I mean, it's obvious that it was harmful to Lynn.
Stephanie, what do you think?
Well, parents tend to think their teens are overly dramatic, but it is a time of physical and emotional change where things are felt very intensely. It's important to acknowledge a teenager's feelings.
So it isn't helpful to say, hey, the problem isn't as serious as you think it is?
Not really. It's much more helpful to listen to the teen's feelings and then try to help her find a way to cope with whatever comes up.
Well, I didn't mean to minimize her feelings. I just honestly didn't know what to say to her.
I wonder, is it common for girls like Lynn who develop earlier to have more self-esteem problems than other teens?
What about that?
Yes. Generally speaking, early physical development can be detrimental to a girl's self-esteem, just the same way late development may be detrimental for a boy's. These girls are often dissatisfied or embarrassed about their bodies. They also tend to feel an increased pressure to be emotionally mature simply because their bodies are mature. It's a difficult situation.
You can say that again.
Why is it difficult for you, Lynn?
Well, I just want to be like all the other girls, but I'm different. Boys stare at me and say things constantly. Sometimes I feel like a freak.
It's natural for you to feel that way, Lynn. Most teenagers feel awkward about their bodies regardless of how early or late they develop.
I'm worried that Lynn is so concerned about being accepted by her peers that she's in danger of giving in to sexual pressure from boys.
You mean she might be a target because she's more physically mature?
Exactly.
Stephanie, what do you think about that?
It's a potential problem. Girls this age don't usually initiate sex. If they engage in sexual activity, it's usually because older boys pressure them physically. Mature girls are often exposed to this pressure earlier than other girls.
I have a question for George. What have you done to prepare yourself for what Lynn's going through?
What do you mean?
You don't seem very educated about Lynn's development.
Well, I guess I'm not. I mean, I really never thought I'd be the one that would have to help Lynn through this. I thought her mother would. But I'm a widower.
That's no excuse not to educate yourself now.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
Stephanie, what is he supposed to do?
Well, George could read some books about adolescence and puberty. There are also parent education classes he could take through the community adult school. He can also speak to Lynn's counselors or a psychologist at her school.
Okay, good. I'll look into that.
I think a lot of these problems could have been avoided if George had prepared himself for the changes Lynn's going through.
I think we should give him a break. He's a single father. He's doing the best he can.
George admits he feels unprepared. The more informed he is about Lynn's physical and emotional development, the better off they'll both be. Parents need to be responsive to a teen's changes.
This might sound corny, but I think some simple affection like a hug or a kiss from George would have made Lynn feel a lot better.
Well, you know, I would like to do that, but Lynn doesn't seem to want me to hug or kiss her anymore.
That's not true. I'm just embarrassed if you do it in front of my friends. It makes me feel like a little girl.
Is it appropriate to show affection to a teenager?
Of course it is. Affection is a great way to help a teenager's self-esteem. Giving teens recognition through compliments and letting them know how proud you are of them is a good way to help them feel better about themselves.
This is a good place to review some of the important points discussed.
Number 1, accept your teenager's emotions and take them seriously. Don't try to minimize her feelings. Number 2, girls who develop early are likely to have problems with self-esteem. Number 3, educate yourself about the inevitable physical and emotional changes your teen will undergo. Preparation will help you be more sensitive. Number 4, help build your teenager's self-esteem by giving her affection and reassurance. We never outgrow our need for affection.
Great. Lynn, George, you've heard the suggestions. Would you like to go back and see if you can resolve this conflict in a more constructive way?
Yeah.
Good, let's give it a try.
What's the matter, Lynn?
I had a bad day at school. Those stupid boys teased me again.
Well, what are they teasing you about? Hey, listen, are they still saying the same thing?
Yes. I feel like such a freak. One boy even snapped my bra.
Oh, listen, those boys are just insecure. They think they have to be cool and prove something by treating you that way. Why don't you try ignoring them, Don't give them the satisfaction of getting upset. I bet if you do that, they'll probably get bored and stop.
Maybe. But I still feel so strange. I hate the way my body looks. Most of the other girls still haven't developed yet.
I know it's hard, Lynn. But everybody's body matures at a different rate. You're just a little further along, that's all. Hey, before you know it, those other girls will be developing too. Then you won't feel so different.
Can't wait till that happens.
You want to know something else? I think you're really growing into a very beautiful woman, both inside and out.
Thanks, Dad.
How did it feel, George?
Well, you know, I felt better because I knew a little bit about what Lynn was going through. I mean, I could give her some encouragement without feeling awkward.
What about you, Lynn?
I felt better. My dad seemed to understand and care. It's still going to be rough, but at least now I have someone at home I can talk to.
I thought you both handled that situation very well. George seemed to understand Lynn's problem, and Lynn didn't shut the door on her father. She was able to communicate with him in a more comfortable way.
Now let's take a look at another parent having a conflict with her teenager.
Kevin, Look at this room.
Mom, I'm trying to study.
I can't believe this pigsty. You're a slob, you know that?
Whatever you say, Mom.
Don't get fresh with me, Kevin. We put a roof over your head and you're so ungrateful.
Mom, I'm trying to study. Now please leave and close the door behind you.
I don't care what you're doing right now, you slob. You're to pick up this mess, and that's an order.
I need to study, Mom. Do you understand?
You're so concerned about being successful outside this house, but you never care about doing the right thing in the house.
Kevin and Angela have agreed to join us today to discuss their conflict with us. Please welcome them to our program. Welcome to the show. Kevin, could you tell us in your own words how you see the conflict with your mother?
Well, I feel like my room is my own private place, and my mother shouldn't be coming in there. I mean, I need my privacy, especially when I'm trying to study. I'm an A student, and my mama should be proud of me. Instead of hassling me all the time, sometimes I need to hear things that I'm doing right, and when I don't, I feel pretty bad about myself.
Angela?
I might seem strict, but as long as Kevin is living under my roof, there's certain rules he'll have to obey. I think that's why he is a good student. It's because we've always held high standards for him.
Do you think Angela has the right to tell Kevin how to keep his room, or do you think she's invading his privacy?
I think Angela should have knocked at the door and respected Kevin's privacy. It's his room. He's the one who has the right to decide how's going to keep it.
No. Wait a minute. As long as he's living under their roof, he needs to respect their rules. I mean, that's just being disrespectful to have a room that messy.
Okay.
Disrespectful to who? It's his room. No one else is going to live in it.
Stephanie, what do you think?
This is a tough situation. It's true that parents have the right to make rules for their children. On the other hand, teenagers need to develop their own identity and are very likely to rebel against their parents' rules.
It's so obvious that he's not going to listen to his mother when she nags him like that. She's just asking for trouble.
Don't I have the right to put my foot down? I am the adult here.
If you want him to clean his room, you'd better think of another approach.
She has a point. It's advisable to avoid getting into power struggles with your teenager. When you make ultimatums, you only provoke his need to assert himself. You almost guarantee yourself a fight.
I still say Angela and her husband have a right to demand a clean room. I mean, they're paying the bills.
Well, if Angela would speak to Kevin in a less confrontational way, Kevin might be more willing to listen. When she puts him down, it probably makes him angry and defensive.
I think Angela should pick her fights better. If she's going to insist on certain things, a clean room should not be at the top of the list.
I agree.
Obviously, I don't. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
It's up to you to decide what things are a priority, but he makes a good point. It's a good idea to choose your battles with a teenager. If you have a major conflict about every point of disagreement, you're going to have a rocky road for a few years.
I really think that we're missing a very important point here. I mean, Kevin is an A student. He's not in a gang. He doesn't do drugs. Who cares how messy his room is? You should be proud of your son.
I am proud of him. And he is a good student, and I tell him so. But that still doesn't change the fact that he's a slob.
I don't think it's right that you call him names. That's only going to make things worse.
Stephanie, what do you think about that?
Name calling is demeaning and can be very destructive to a teenager's sense of self-esteem. It's more effective for you to express your feelings and to acknowledge his feelings as well. Many teenagers feel that their parents don't understand where they're coming from. That's why it's also important to acknowledge the things you think he's doing well. That builds self-esteem.
I can see that.
Do you have any other comments?
Yes, I'm a little disturbed with Angela's mixed messages. I mean, on one hand, she wants Kevin to behave, but on the other hand, she punishes him for doing something right.
What do you mean?
Well, for example, when he's studying for a test, I mean, that's something he's doing good, right? I mean, that's certainly more important than cleaning his room.
Kevin, do you feel your mom's giving you mixed messages?
I guess so. I mean, I'm doing really well in school, and I'm involved with school and sports. I'm an A student, and my mom should be proud of me instead of hassling me all the time. She always harps on the negative.
Maybe you have been a bit unclear about your rules, Angela. I mean, what's more important for Kevin to accomplish? Is a clean room really that important, or is it just an issue that gets too much attention? If Kevin is doing well in school, his studies should be encouraged and nurtured.
I think you both need to communicate with each other better. Learn to talk without being so defensive.
I agree with that.
I guess I do too.
Let's review some of the important points discussed.
Number 1, understand that a teenager needs to develop his own individual identity apart from his parents. At times, a teen will rebel against a parent's rules. Number 2, avoid power struggles with your teenagers and be selective about when to stand your ground. Number 3, name-calling and using demeaning language can be destructive to a teenager's self-esteem and should be avoided. Number 4, express your feelings when you speak to your teenager. Acknowledge his feelings and express your own. Number 5, always keep up good communication with your teenagers. You will avoid conflict and help build self-esteem if you strive to understand his point of view. Acknowledge his accomplishments and what he does to make you proud.
Angela, Kevin, would you like to go back and see if you can deal with your disagreement in a more constructive manner?
Well, let's give it a try.
Good. Let's see what happens.
Come in.
Kevin, do you think you can clean up this room?
Now's not a good time, Mom. I'm studying for a test.
That's fine. But when do you think you can clean it up?
Well, I'm so busy with studying in school. When I get home, the last thing I want to do is clean. Besides, it's my room. Why should it bother you?
I know you work really hard on your schoolwork, and that's important. But when you let your room get out of shape like this, I feel that it's a lack of respect for me and your father.
Why?
Because we take pride in our house and we want it to be clean. Now, I know you worked hard all week and you're busy, but do you think maybe you could straighten it up over the weekend?
Well, I guess I could do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know I'm proud of you, right?
Yeah, I know. Don't get all corny on me. Now I haven't cleaned it yet.
How did that feel, Angela?
I felt good. I was able to communicate my feelings to Kevin without getting an attitude and without him getting defensive.
What about you, Kevin?
I think my mom understood where I was coming from, and that made me look at her point of view. Before, I really didn't care what she had to say.
The communication was much better because you both tried to see each other's point of view.
I still want Kevin to keep his room cleaner, though.
Good. Now let's review the many ideas we've discussed today.
Number 1, take your teenager's emotions seriously. Number 2, girls who develop early may have self-esteem problems. Number 3, use available resources to help you parent. Number 4, build your teenager's self-esteem with affection and recognition. Number 5, teenagers need to develop their own identity. Number 6, avoid power struggles. Number 7, avoid name-calling. Number 8, express your feelings. Number 9, keep up good communication. These 9 concepts can help you to enhance your teenager's self-esteem and improve your relationship with him or her.
I think we've learned a lot today about self-esteem. Would our guests like to make any final comments?
Well, yeah, I would. I learned that it's really important to know what's going on in your teenager's life and to always be there to listen to them.
I learned that deciding what your real priorities are will lessen conflict.
And even though I'm growing up, I think it's still okay to need your parents and to rely on them for support.
It's also important to understand where your parents are coming from and take their feelings into account.
Well, I can see this has been a good experience for all of you. In closing, I'd just like to remind parents that adolescence is a difficult time with rapid physical and emotional changes. The teenagers need to develop his own identity apart from his parents can result in conflict if parents are not prepared for and accepting of the inevitable changes their teenagers are experiencing. Good communication and sensitivity to these changes will go a long way in making your relationship with your teenager much more rewarding and satisfying. An excellent way to implement these new skills you've learned is to keep a daily journal. You may want to write down the problems and conflicts that arise with your teenager, what you and your teenager do to help resolve the problem, and improve his self-esteem.
Thank you, Stephanie. And thanks to all of you for participating in today's program. We look forward to working with you again in our next episode of Surviving the Teen Years.